Zinyo to Tafumane, the fashion design industry has been engulfed by opportunities and threats. Most importantly, the controversies that have been reported all over different social media platforms. My guest today is Sandile Ngwenya, and I'll be asking her how she has managed to overcome all the three aspects I mentioned. Sandile, welcome to the People's Request podcast.
Thank you, Justice. What's up?
Check, how are you doing?
All right.
So tell me, people have talked about fashion designers and their controversies in, coming up with different designs and dresses for their celebrities or people that they work for. How have you managed to overcome those controversies over the past? How long have you been doing this? And so our viewers and listeners want to know how you have managed to overcome the controversy of your clients and the dresses that you come up with.
Designing is a complicated world on its own. It's not easy because there's nothing that you can do that people can say, this is new. I've never seen this. It's more like a photocopy or a better version of what you've seen or what you can imagine. And then I've been in the industry for close to 8 years from now. I started this at a very young age.
Wow. What inspired you to do fashion designing? I mean, there's so many other trades that you could have done, accounting, law. Why fashion designing?
I don't know really though. I feel like I loved fashion at a young age. I've always loved dressing myself and styling myself. So what I can remember at a young age, I remember I used to cut up my t-shirts, cut up my jeans. I used to love ripped jeans at that time. They were not even in season though. And I would tear up those t-shirts, paint, splash, just to make something different from what everyone else wears.
So when was the right time when you then discovered, look, I can make money out of this? And the reaction from society, your parents, how did you start up as a fashion designer to say, look, I want to do this and I can make money out of it?
Well, I didn't just go at it like that at first. I started by being assistant to quite a number of designers. And in turn, that helped me know what I wanted to do. Because at that time, I was like, fashion designing is so cool. But then I didn't know how to start, where to start. So from then, I think that's when I got intrigued and wanted to know different styles and how the fashion designers in Zimbabwe are actually doing it. But I only did being an assistant for like 7 to 6 years. And then 2018, that's when I was like, wait, I think I'm cool now. I can stand on my own. Then I jumped at it myself.
Great. What were some of the opportunities that you experienced when you started in 2018, like you mentioned? The opportunity, if someone is listening today and they want to be a fashion designer, what is it that they can look up to?
Well, I can say for starters, myself, how I started off, it wasn't nice at all. It was a rocky ride because arts industry in Zim is more like a competition. By the time people know, okay, this person has worked for me, and then now you're establishing something on your own, there's always that negativity that has to come. And sometimes even social media, they can come at you via social media. For me, it was hard to start up in 2018. I had to borrow quite a lot of stuff.
I can imagine, yeah.
I didn't have my own equipment. I didn't have my own space. So there was this old lady that used to be in this building that I used to work at. So she would call me sometimes and say, just come and I'll teach you a few stuff. And then she would borrow me her machine for a few hours and then gradually I was able to do stuff myself without anyone supervising me. And
so the gradual turnover that you experienced and how it has made you to be who you are now, some of the opportunities that you're highlighting to us. And key mention is the competition that you mentioned. How have you managed to override them? And I know there are seasoned fashion designers in the city, in Zimbabwe and abroad. How have you managed to compete in the industry of fashion design?
To be quite honest, I've I've often ran away from competing locally. So most of the time I would rather look out for opportunities outside them, because I've often felt like competition locally isn't really competition. I believe we're just all the same dogs eating from the same pot. But then we like to treat each other as if there's a bulldog and then there's a greyhound,
I like that.
all that.
I like that. It's more of complementing each other, and people in Zim, they hardly complement each other,
Yeah.
especially if they're in the same industry and trade. I like that. Apart from fashion designing and the opportunities and the threats, let's quickly look at the controversies. I know a lot of fashion designers who have done a good job for celebrities around. And have you worked with any top celebrities around and you say, this was my work and I got recognition for it?
No, I haven't worked with any celebrity as yet. But there is something coming up with one, but I can't
You
mention
cannot
it.
disclose it? I understand.
Yeah.
Apart from fashion designing, what else do you do apart from? Do you have any other revenue streams? Because the previous guest who came here, she was talking about 3 or 4, 5 revenue streams. And because of the economy in Zimbabwe right now, I think every young person is a jack of all trades. He or she is doing something to get money. Do you have any other thing apart from fashion design that you do?
Yeah, I have, but it's more on the educational aspect, the things that I learned to school that I didn't take up as yet. So yeah, I am also into business as well.
Music.
Music, yes. Music and poetry. I write poetry. I'm a writer.
Interesting. How do you strike the balance between fashion designing, you are needed in the studio for music production, you are also needed to pen some poetry. How do you balance?
Well, it's quite easy because they don't all just come up at once. Especially with fashion. Fashion, I'm there constantly 24/7. Then with music, it's on days. And then with poetry, it's more constant as the fashion, because I also write vows for weddings. And I write songs.
Could you give us an example of a vow?
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm joking. Let's quickly look at the challenges that young people are facing, especially women. I'm a bit skeptical about the challenges that you've faced in the industry, apart from competition that you've mentioned. Is there any other challenges that you say, look, these are highlighting for a young child who's listening to you right now and they want to venture into fashion designing? What are some of the key challenges that you'd say, look, you would experience ABC?
There is quite a lot actually, because as a fashion designer, you're exposed to certain things that you would have never imagined you would do. Like, for instance, you get clients that host events and you're needed at that event to make sure that they look good in that event, and you have to be there constantly. Sometimes you're even exposed to parties, where everyone else is drinking and they're drunk and you can't take anything because you're working. But very few people would actually understand that. Mostly for women, what I have experienced starting up as a designer, I've experienced where I've had a client who would come and say, yo, I want a shirt and pants. And then they bring a wife, maybe, for instance. And then they do the order with the wife present. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Then he's like, cool, I'll come tomorrow. Then when they're coming tomorrow, it's a different story now. It's either the guy is hitting on you or he's trying to do funny moves, especially when they are fitting.
True. When they're fitting, you obviously have to.
Yeah, you have to kind of do the manual work touch where you're not supposed to touch, but then
that's part of the work.
That's part of the work, but then the client does not understand that it's part of the work.
So you end up clashing with the spouse and it turns out to be bad. Talking about your business manually, fine. We get that by the book and there's nothing that you can do about it.
True.
Are there any other challenges pertaining to the economy, finance, when you want to start financial designing? What are some of the requirements? Do I need so much money, capital, for me to start?
There is a lot of capital that you actually need as a fashion designer, because our equipment at the moment is very expensive locally, so you can't buy anything locally, so which means you can't support local companies. You have to go buy something outside your country, and then now shipping it back to your country is another expense. Sometimes you end up feeling like, you know what, let me just use a hand machine and just
Okay, we're just about to round off today's session. Do you have role models? Who do you look up to in your business to say, look, I have started, you're saying you have been under the supervision of seasoned fashion designers for the past 8 years. Who are your role models locally and internationally?
Locally, my role model is Empress Primi. She's actually quite a good friend of mine. She's one of the people that actually taught me a lot about coutouring. And that was something I never wanted to do. But then when I worked with her, she kind of gave me a beautiful view of that world. So I would say Empress Primi is my local inspiration and role model.
Great. And last words to the people listening, young people who want to join your business and who do recruit people, mentor them. What are your last parting words to them who are listening to you right now?
I would say for them to be a designer, you rather rethink that, unless you can support.
Are you discouraging
yourself.
people not to join your industry?
Nah, just leave it. I feel like we're already crowded enough and there are other opportunities somewhere else. Rather look to do something else than chase what everyone else is chasing.
Sure. Sandile Ngwenya, thank you for joining me on People's Request. How do people get in touch with you on social media?
My word, you can find me as Sans on Instagram. I'm not yet on Twitter though. And you can find me as Sans on Facebook also. So I'm not yet quite out there on social media.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The People's Request. Today I was joined by Sandile Ngwenya, a well-known fashion designer. And she's saying, look, we're already overcrowded. If you have hopes of joining the industry, think otherwise. Justice Simango is my name. See you next time.